dedicated to better incubation. I would say more than a project, a program dedicated to understanding how incubation actors could work to be more inclusive and impact-driven in the way they work with the beneficiaries. So we have 1 hour and a half to talk through different aspects we touched upon over the last 2 years. And to do so, I'll give you a short introduction just to set a bit the framework and understand what better incubation is about. Then we'll enter into a conversation more on the policy perspective on the topic, and we'll also listen to the directors and managers of the 3 networks that are behind or enabling this action. We then hear voices of better incubation, so you will hear the direct experiences of different stakeholders involved in initiative, and then we give the floor to 3 entrepreneurs that we have supported with the Better Incubation Scaling Program. So, few highlights. First of all, my name is Chiara, and I'm a project manager at EBN, the European Business Innovation Center network, one of the 3 networks that has enabled the Better Incubation Program. So together with EBN, representing business support organizations, EU BICS, Business Innovation Centers, is EVPA, the European Venture Philanthropist Association, and Impact Hub. We'll hear a bit more about the 3 networks soon, so I don't spend too many words. And together with us, advising us, are the 4 networks that really added a new perspective in the conversation around incubation, inclusive incubation, namely Caritas Europa, Cooperatives Europe, MS, and NC, that has indeed have advised us over these last 2 years. So, what have we done all together? We have worked with mainstream business support organization in order to increase their capacity and outreach to work with social and underrepresented entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs. So BSOs, intermediaries being our main target group, but through them then creating an impact, improving services, opportunities for entrepreneurs, would-be entrepreneurs, mainly from the so-called vulnerable groups, underrepresented groups. Why this? To kickstart an ecosystemic change, bringing incubation and business support services closer to the world society, so to promote entrepreneurship and self-employment as means to create jobs, develop skills, and give unemployed and vulnerable people an opportunity to fully participate in society and economy. To enable this ecosystemic change, we have worked around 4 main pillars. Capacity building for business support organizations. These happening, I would say, along 2 main areas of interventions: peer learning with the communities of practice and trainings. The cultural paradigm shift, the second element, so really about reaching out to the wider ecosystem to understand how all together we can actually enable a change in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. The impact assessment framework, so informing our decisions, our reflections with data collected on the ground. So trying to capture the learnings from the incubation pilots we have been running in 21 regions in Europe. And then the 4th element, building new alliances, going beyond the usual partnerships, really adding layers and adding perspectives to better serve the beneficiaries we were targeting.
In the end, being inclusive, we were discussing this morning during a workshop we had with some of you and other people. It's about managing complexity and being able to really give everybody, trying to approach the needs of everybody with the right tools, the right channels, and also the right mindset. So if I would tell you about better incubation through numbers, these are the main figures that can tell what we have been doing. First of all, I was telling you about the capacity building element of the program and the one of the communities of practice. So we have been working with 5 groups of 7, 8 people that for more than 1 year have worked together to first research, then experiment, and then reflect on inclusive incubation practices. We have been targeting 5 main groups, namely women, youth, people with disabilities, migrants and refugees and seniors. And we have been looking into existing best practices, good practices, tools. Then we have been working on how to implement them in our organizations. And then we have been reflecting on the learnings of these pilots. So the group was made of 4 business support organizations, 2 EBN EU BICs, EBN members, and 2 impact hubs, an entrepreneur coming from the targeted vulnerable group, an expert in the needs and also the opportunities represented by those groups, and a representative of national Caritas organizations. On top of this core group, we were also involving Investors for Impact. So they were joining ad hoc sessions and calls to really enrich the conversation and the discussion. As I was telling you, we have been run 21 incubation pilot programs targeting the 5 target groups, and through these programs we supported more than 130 entrepreneurs, would-be entrepreneurs. So a lot of activity, a lot of action, and then we try to capture main learnings and share them in the 4 publications you see there. Better Incubation Best Practices, Better Incubation Toolkit, the Insights Paper, and the Incubation Roadmap, addressing different levels of activities carried out in the project. We looked at how to make incubation programs more inclusive. We looked at how help mainstream business support organizations being more inclusive, so looking at the organizational level. And then we looked at the ecosystemic level as we ran 15 regional policy workshops to meet more than 350 stakeholders and discuss with them how actually the wider ecosystem can work together to enable more inclusive and impact-driven entrepreneurship in the European territories. I was telling you about the training component. You can find 3 training courses, resources, and also recordings on our website. Courses about social entrepreneurship, impact management and measurement, and inclusive entrepreneurship. Lots of events, very interesting reverse pitching series with the Investors for Impact. This time them being on stage pitching about how they operate. And a series of international events, like the tech camp we had in Lipica a couple of months ago, where basically we were allowing peers to share knowledge, exchange practices, and reflect on what can be done after this specific experience of better incubation. Last but not least, we have launched a contest to select 3 impact-driven ventures led by representatives of 1 or more of the target groups, and the 3 selected entrepreneurs are with us today. You will hear from them, and they are currently receiving the so-called scaling support from Better Incubation. So again, a very nice program enabled by the 3 networks altogether, because the 3 entrepreneurs are receiving mentoring and incubation services from EDN, Impact Hub, and EVPA members. So really trying to leverage complementarities of these 3 communities. I stop here. Just let me know that indeed we still have opportunities for you. As I was telling you, have a look to the website, betterincubation.eu, for information about the communities of practice, good practices, some of the publications you see here, videos that are telling incubation stories. And don't miss the last occasion we have to meet and talk about better incubation. It's a webinar we are organizing together with DG Employment, with the support of colleagues from DG Employment and one of the European National Competence Centers for Social Innovation, where we'll discuss funding instruments and competence centers for social innovation and how they contribute to the implementation of the Social Economy Action Plan. So this is, let's say in a nutshell, what better incubation is, but I would say that it was, and it is, all about making connections and leveraging the diversity of networks, within our staffs, connecting sectors, connecting experiences. So we did a lot. You heard, we did really a lot, and this was possible because we managed to really share and connect the knowledge of this group, but actually this is just part of the group we mobilized. I stop here. Of course, I am available together with my colleagues to give you further information. It was just to set a bit the scene. But now I would call here with me on stage Brigitte Delacrognot, head of unit in DG Employment, in charge of social and inclusive entrepreneurship.
Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for the introduction and even more for the nice presentation. And I must say for us, it's a pleasure to have supported this project, which was indeed very rich, as we could see from the deliverables that you presented much better than I would have done, obviously. But it's a very inspiring project. So we're happy to be here today for almost the closing of this successful project. But yeah, it's getting to the end. When we started, it was a bit more than 3 years ago. We were looking for a way to explore how social economy organizations and businesses could reach out more to the underrepresented groups, so those 5 that were on your presentation, mostly the women, the senior, the youth, people with disability, and I missed one. Okay, correct.
Migrants and refugees.
And migrants. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, how could they receive appropriate non-financial support? Because here it's not about access to funding, it's really about the rest, all the supporting services. And the issue we wanted to address was what is usually called as weak investment readiness, so that when these people go and actually see that they are not really ready with their project, so it's very difficult for them to really start any entrepreneurship pathway. And the idea is that, as you see from these 5 more vulnerable groups, the idea is really to make it possible for everybody to become an entrepreneur, basically, even those groups which are usually facing higher barriers than the others. So the idea was not to create something, again, dedicated and specific, and that's what is very special about this project, but to try to use mainstream support services to be able to have a more maybe targeted support. Well, I think it worked. I understand that my colleague Estelle gave you a challenge this morning. Is that okay? Now we have all these nice deliverables. You have demonstrated that it can work, that it can have results. How will you convince all your colleagues that it makes sense for them? Which I think is a very nice challenge, but a very important one, because indeed you delivered now the tools for them to make it work. We just have to make sure that they are all on board and all convinced that it makes sense for them. But yeah, that's very nice. So the idea was really to kickstart this economic ecosystemic change, and I think you did a good work here. So how does it fit into the larger picture? So the Social Economy Action Plan, you're aware, we adopted 1 year ago, almost exactly, and it includes over 60 actions actually, to improve the framework conditions for all the social economy. And also, obviously, I mean, the idea is to improve the recognition as well for this ecosystem, which we think is very important as resilience, really, its capacity to boost integration, to boost employment, to boost growth as well, including in difficult conditions. There has been major progress already. Unfortunately, during the COVID phase, we saw that again, especially those underrepresented groups, again, the higher barriers they used to have somehow grew up again, and it was more difficult for them, for example, to access some support measures because social enterprises, maybe they were too small, or they were not anyway meeting the eligibility requirements for the mainstream measures. So here we see again that there was a need for adjustment, and it's never a given. So we always have to pay attention to that and to make sure that they can be supported. So our efforts must continue, obviously, and we need to find ways to empower and mobilize all entrepreneurial talents in Europe, irrespective of the people's background. I read because I had a preview of your latest deliverables, which are very interesting in terms of insight and the policy recommendations as well, building on all the lessons that you could learn through all this work, analysis, and this community of practices. To name just a few, and I don't want to spoil anybody's reading, but it was interesting to see that depending on the groups, actually, indeed, the value added of those more targeted services was not the same. Typically for the young people, they have a different set of results that probably as they were less mature in their project when they come to the support services. The most important added value was already starting with building self-confidence, which is essential if you want to become an entrepreneur, but not necessarily the same value added for all the groups, all the vulnerable groups. Typically female entrepreneurs who already came with more mature projects, but had other barriers, including obviously linked to gender, difficulty, less networks, more difficult access to finance, these kind of issues. And there, the customized support could really help them. On the policy recommendations, so you discussed them this morning, and some overlap, reinforce the conclusions we came to under the Social Economy Action Plan as well, and typically the fact that we need to reinforce the interactions between mainstream business and social enterprises. So very important indeed, and it's an axis on which we will work as well to make sure that social enterprises can also deliver to their best. So we clearly need the types of analysis and recommendations that this project has been delivering. So again, we're happy to have supported it so that we can help generate what you mentioned, this cultural change, and this is really a shift in paradigm. And it's very important that we push in the same direction. Coming back to the action plan for the social economy, maybe just to mention 2 initiatives which are already prepared and you would see rather soon. The first one I think is expected by the community. It's the social economy gateway. There are, okay, you confirm. We see there are a lot of expectations for the social economy gateway. The idea being to have on the website kind of single entry point where all, it's not possible, all the information needed and available will be there, either considering policies or funding or toolkits, guidance, whatever. So obviously, I mean, it will not start from day one with everything available. So we're working on it, we're building it with the help of actually stakeholders. We need your input there as well. And it will start in the spring next year. And obviously it will build over time and it will develop and get richer over time. This is exactly, an important element, because we always hear that it's difficult to find your way when you want to start a social enterprise, and it's difficult to know where to find the information. So this is we hope it will be an important step forward. Second one, we'll target one of the 5 groups you have targeted as well, meaning the young people. And we will launch early next year a Youth Entrepreneurship Policy Academy together with the OECD. So the idea is really to have create a network of young entrepreneurs themselves and policymakers, and have go through a series of events really to a learning process to see how we can make the conditions better for future young entrepreneurs also to be able to launch themselves. So the idea is really to trigger policy changes in favor of the youth and give more chances to future aspiring entrepreneurs. So these are just 2 of the initiatives we are working on, and we hope they just show that we're trying really to push in the same direction. Better Incubation project is almost over, as already mentioned. Some of your guidance is available online, so for larger public. Online also you can find a tool, which is where we have the Better Entrepreneurship Policy tool, which I think is very useful, and to help also would-be entrepreneurs to assess or policymakers to assess the readiness of their and the suitability of their framework. We are just relaunching it. Again with the OECD, so it will be there for the years to come. So this, in terms of trends, is also something that will remain. So with this, if I may say, with us, so we hope to put in place a more favorable framework. And I'm really looking to the other speakers, because I heard they were the world nominees, so very interesting to hear their stories. Thanks a lot for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, you touch upon some elements, so definitely the targeted needs of the different groups is a must to consider, but it's also true that in the end, just saying I'm a woman doesn't say much. So actually intersectionality is something that always needs to be taken into account. And that's why it's very important to work with beneficiaries, target groups, and not only for them, in order to be even more impactful. Accessibility, access to information, it's indeed perceived as something needed to let people into this entrepreneurship context and framework. And indeed, we, as a Better Incubation, we use the Better Entrepreneurship Policy tool as a framework to run the different conversations within the community of practice, during the policy workshops, the regional policy workshops. So a very useful tool to kickstart exchanges within different settings, different communities. When I stop, because now I would give the floor to Tatiana, Laura, and Alessia, who are going to share some reflections from the perspectives of the 3 networks that have empowered and enabled the Better Incubation project. So first of all, maybe quick introduction about yourselves and the community you represent. Laura, we can follow the
line. Right, good afternoon. I'm Laura Lecci, the CEO of EBN. EBN stands for the European Business and Innovation Center Network. It's a non-for-profit association that facilitates a pan-European community of people that really believe that innovative enterprises do really strive for the regional, sustainable, social, and economic development. And we do grant and manage the UBIC label that Chiara briefly mentioned before, which is a label that somehow stand out for the quality of the services that the organization that owns it do deliver to the entrepreneurs, to the community that they serve. By following four missions: the regional commitment that I already mentioned, the quality of the services, the access to finance is an important element for them to really prepare a steady pipeline of innovative companies ready to access funding, source of funding, and of course access to global markets.
So, Alessia, about EVPA?
Yes, so I'm Alessia Gianoncelli, Head of Knowledge and Programs. At EVPA actually is the host of this bigger event. So, a few words on us. We are really the community of European Investors for Impact. I think, Chiara, you said it quite a few times. So, these are really those organizations that are putting the money and the non-financial support out there to support social purpose organizations, social enterprises, really to flourish and to work on the solutions they are putting together to solve the issues that we know it's plenty of. And we have a variety of investors, actually, what we call Investors for Impact, and for foundations that also give engaged green making. We have impact funds, we have even financial institutions, and we have a few also incubators and accelerators. And I think that was what is important also for us, is to try to match these different worlds, social entrepreneurs and investors, and I think that the community of incubators and accelerators is really the community that can do it. So we are very happy also to be involved in this project, I think, because we have seen everything, all the parts of the
Congratulations. Okay, thank you, Alessia. So, Tatiana, about...
So I'm the Executive Director of the Impact Hub Global Network. We are in over 64 countries, and what we have over 50 Impact Hubs in Europe, and those are places where it's not just about the services and the bringing people together and different stakeholders, but it's about building ongoing communities so that people can be supported when they finish a program, they continue and they grow, and they can find like-minded others to support them. So where financiers and different types of stakeholders, policymakers come to learn. So for us, really the key is hosting community so that it can enable a more just and sustainable world. And these entrepreneurs tackle all kinds of different topics. So this has been really a big one over the last 2 years.
Yes, so Tatiana, I will start from you. Sure. And so what better incubation meant for the Impact Hub community? So what are the main elements that you would stress out of this experience?
I think there's a couple of levels. So first of all, for our own organization, I think to really have dedicated focus, on this topic, to see that as we were creating the tools and getting input from the experts and engaging in these communities of practice, that we could deepen our learning and attention around these issues that we care about, like we've always cared about these issues and such. But to really also create a place of reflection that we could learn and improve what we do. In terms of the entrepreneurs that actually benefited from this, at the end, it was very much about seeing the high potential for many more that are interested in this, because it's not just the ones that are already tackling these topics, right? And that are representing these communities. There's so many more that want a much more inclusive world. So when we looked at shifting to a new economy, there's very much about we have to embed this in what we're doing. So for us, it was really that dedicated practice, having very practical tools, working structurally with some partners that, we've always kind of danced around in the same place to look at how we can do more together in that way. So I'd say there's a lot of also deepening of our own practice, and just the beginning of this journey in some ways.
Thank you. And so for EVPA, what this program meant?
Yes, so I think I started a little bit. I'm exhausted, but because it's the second day or maybe third of a super great conference. So I will try to make it a bit better. So I think that I still remember when we started everything with this idea, all the paperwork, all these ideas that we had, of many activities that we wanted to do. We started actually very small with a report initially. So it was really a report in collaboration with EBN, but we really wanted to explore the role that incubators and accelerators, business support organizations can have in our ecosystem, in the impact ecosystem. And again, I think that the collaboration was successful. That's why we then decided to continue, because we wanted to explore more, and we really wanted to understand how our community of investors can also take part in this kind of conversation. I think Brigitte mentioned investment readiness. We still see and we still hear lots of impact investors not complaining, but still raising the issue of when social enterprises comes to us, they're not really ready, maybe they're still lacking something. So it's really cool to see and to enable other type of organizations to be in between. So really to try to match what we still see as a big problem, because as said, there are capitals available, there are societal solutions developed by brilliant social entrepreneurs. Still, we believe that these two words don't communicate enough. So we really thought that participating in this kind of project, of program, as you said, it was a bigger than just a project, could really then help accelerate impact, mobilize more resources, raising awareness also, because I think that for us, when we engage our own investors for impact into the different activities, there was this idea of putting them in contact, discussing with business support organizations, how they could really, explaining them what they would have needed from the entrepreneurs and then support. I think last point, maybe it's on IMM. I think you said it, Chiara. For us as a VPA, this is very important. So impact measurement and management. And I think that capacity building around this topic is essential, because again, we are in the impact ecosystem and we need to talk more about impact, but also to look into data and to understand how to use this data to then taking better decisions, doing better things. So I think that everything that you presented, so it's really cool. Seeing the results is all pretty exciting. So voila, for us it was a great success, I would say.
So Laura, EVN side.
I think it was kind of a wake-up call, if I can call it this way. Tatiana said it before, Impact Up and EVN, we have been at secretariat level, we've been working for quite some time, and then bilaterally as well with EVPA, launching other initiatives or collaborating on other things. Somehow we, at secretariat level, we had the intuition that probably mainstream business support organization could their impacts and bring their expertise there, and probably be that place that also Brigitte was mentioning before, where the social enterprise can talk also with other entrepreneurs and maybe realize that the obstacles sometimes are the same. It's just a matter of changing the narrative. We saw that with this movement. Also, we tend somehow to undermine it, but also the whole program started. Was just the little details of the spread of a pandemic, global pandemic going on, where we're still trying somehow to recover, cities, regions really struggling with the climate change things. Now we're living again in sort of during an uncertain time. For not only for economy, but because we're tackling that part. So for us, somehow for our members, as I was saying, was a wake up call to say, okay, now probably yes, we've talked too much about the innovation systemic change needed. Now we have to do something. It was a call for action. And so what we saw is that not only they need it, but they also can increase their scope, can deliver more tailored services for impact-driven entrepreneurs. And also probably the most successful part for them and for us was really to see in action the synergies of the three networks that we've always somehow, again, as an intuition had, but we finally saw them in practice.
Okay, so to close this conversation, a short one, let's say like over a coffee, what next? So what are the elements you are going to build on with your networks inside? Within your restricted community, but also with the other partners. If you have ideas, plans already established, Who goes first? We go back this way.
Exactly.
Laura.
The program is ending, it's true, but the network are remaining, and definitely we don't want to waste all the experiences that we have acquired thanks to the work done with the partners and the members of the three networks and all the resources that are available. So as far as EBN is concerned, the first more concrete step that we are taking is really to try to take what is in all those resources that we know can talk more to our members in a technical note. Our technical notes really provide them with concrete tools, so now they can really embed not only those members that participated actively in the program, but also everybody else to really embed these new tools, new methodologies, in order really to continue to do what they do even better, working towards a better incubation model, as has been advocated several times this morning. Was it short enough?
So I think that we will continue to disseminate. And again, I think that there is really the need. I think I said really a few times already, but I really believe in this. Now, there is still the need of awareness. So we will continue to share insights, results, to make everyone understand that this was, again, a major effort done by different ecosystem builders. And then we are also exploring internally what are the investors that are supporting these underserved communities. So engage more with those to understand whether there are others that would like to start supporting. So then we can do the match, the real match. And I would close with, again, one of my best topics, which is capacity building on impact measurement and management. I think that you said these were mainstream business support organizations in order to support better social entrepreneurs. These skills on how to measure, how to understand the impact are really crucial. So I think that as the VPA, we would love to continue to support also in this way. So I hope it was short, and I hope it was really short.
Wonderful. Tatiana, then.
Very pragmatic, 4 things. One is we have these now, right? These tools and all this knowledge, the insight papers, and we can use this also beyond our network and with our community partners, with so many others and such. So I think that's a very practical way to actually embed this much more in other programs as well. I think second of all, Brigitte was mentioning this about the social economy action plan, and I realized this is such a good way to actually activate this on the ground. Sometimes we see this high flying stuff. So it's like, how do you activate this with people on the ground who might not speak some of the language of social economy and social entrepreneurship? So for us, that's about also embedding communities of concern in the design. So we can offer that with our program partners, we can offer that with investors and such, because I think the third piece is that access to finance. Like, how can we couple this, in some way? So I think we definitely want to continue in some form this program one way or another, and parts of it, and embed that. And I think that last piece is about this partnership, about how do we continue to leverage these types of partnerships. And I think it's a question about, do we go wider with others or do we go deeper with these? Because there's so much work to be done in this area. So I'm grateful. I think you said at the beginning is that cultural paradigm change. So it has to start with shifting the way that we work. I think this has allowed us to reflect on what we can do differently and how we do it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I let you go back to your seats. And now, so, I think the four of you mentioned the need for creating the good space for things happening. And this is something that came up also with the entrepreneurs, creating safe and comfortable spaces for them to take a risk, to understand if their ideas should be put forward or not. So really create the place where to take a first step. Create the space where 3 networks can start this collaboration, and then deeper, go wider, why not with even more partners. Again, stop, because now you will listen to other voices, the voices of better incubation, and my colleague Lucia is going to tell you more.
Thank you, Chiara. So first of all, I'm gonna invite in front all the voices. So Francisco, Victoria, Francesco, Grisha, Eric, Christian, and Naila. Please join me. I know you're many. No, it's okay. I'm gonna stand.
You don't want to?
No. Yeah. It's a lot of voices, and these are only a few. You saw in that picture much more people, and those were only a few. We had hundreds of people contributing to this complex project. We wanted to bring in front of you today a few of the people to hear a couple of the stories they went through, and hopefully to inspire you to become contributors to social economy and to even better incubation. My name is Lucia Radu. I'm a program manager within the Impact Hub network. I was program manager for Liaise Better Incubation on behalf of Impact Hub, and we're gonna have a very intense conversation because we have a very short time slot. So I'm gonna invite each of you, first of all, to say your name, the organization that you represent, and what was your role in the project. Because they had different roles. They were either involved in the communities of practice, they were experts, they were facilitators. So they represent various roles that we had within the project. So name, organization, your role in the project, and one aha moment that you had in the project, something that shifted within yourself or within your organization. And I'm gonna time you, so, because we're many and the time is short, but we want to actually take out the essence. So each of you is gonna have 2 minutes to say these 3 information. So. Yeah, because the conference ends, so yeah. I'm afraid they're gonna kick us out. No, kidding. Good. So I'm gonna start from left to right. Francisco, do you want to go first?
Thank you very much. I'm Francisco Pizarro, and I come from Fundecit. It's a regional government entity in Extremadura, in Spain. We are a UIC, a member of EBN. And our role in this project was a community of practice in Youth, and then a policy workshop in our region. Continue or then?
No, you can say your aha moment.
Our essence, I think that for us, this project has contributed to open our ecosystem and connect. Our main role is innovative entrepreneurship, science and technology based entrepreneurship. And with this project, we have opened to social entrepreneurship agents. And the policy workshop was really a discovery, not only for us, but for them, in 2 ways. Introduce social issues in the innovative entrepreneurship, and on the other hand, include the social entrepreneurship in the science and technology policies and competitive policies, because this kind of entrepreneurship used to be close to employment or them, and they want to belong to the enterprises and to the science, technology, innovation. So this dialogue and this interchange, it was very interesting for us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Rishabh Sandalia. I started the project with Project Phoenix, and I was the expert advisor to the Refugees and Migrant Entrepreneurship Group. And I was running a refugee entrepreneurship project in Cyprus at that time, which I did for 3 years. And then in the middle of it, I moved to EPIM, which is the European Programme for International Migration, on the philanthropic side, and I'm part of the problem. So I welcome the solution to the problem. So yeah, that's the work I did, and it was nice to observe. And it was actually 3 takeaway moments. One, I think in the migration and refugee space, a lot of the work is disingenuous because that doesn't actually include migrant voices. And I was pleasantly surprised to be part of a community of practice that had 3 migrant voices. So myself, Sayed, who brought in the sort of refugee perspective from Afghanistan, and Mariam, who's sort of long-term British. So I think that was important to really build up, and I recognize that across the different communities of practice, that really, if you want to start building alternative forms of incubation that actually work and that are not, designed to white startup pros, then you need to really start from the bottom. So yeah, really kudos to you for thinking about that. The sort of second big aha moment is, again, I do work on systems change. It was really good to see a functional community of practice. There's a lot of community of practices out there. There's a lot of Slack groups out there. There's a lot of conversations that don't lead to anything. So it was good to be part of something that was so well curated, well thought out, and structured differently. So I think that's a piece there that you can take and do something with that. And then I think finally, Karen, you talked about this a lot, which is about narratives and impact. And I think the story with non-traditional, underrepresented groups is not about, unicorns and cash. It's about the sort of longer-term societal impact, right? And the sort of values of lives you're changing. So I think part of the role of BSOs and networks like yours is to go out and convince investors and actors that you can't get the same kind of return, and it's not even fair. So that's about, you're telling a different story, but you also have to, convince the audience that that different story needs to be listened to. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Richard. Francesco.
So I'm Francesco and I'm leading the Impact Hub in Lisbon. So we were doing the pilot of the Liaise incubation program focused on the senior. Actually, it's funny because you'd not expect seniors to be like the type of social and impact entrepreneurs. It's not like the first person that would come to your mind. And we've been running it to actually, we added the toolkit and the framework into a program that was funded by the Portuguese Social Innovation Fund. We were targeting employment. So we have been running this program to reinsert 10 people into the labor market, and 5 of them were seniors. And it's really important to kind of adapt what we normally do as an acceleration program, because you can't have a Slack group, you can't have you really had to call the seniors one by one, to make sure you really had that human dimension of doing a picnic with them and going out and translate all the content and materials you had in English, like bootstrapping or this pitch. You always had to make sure it was understandable for them. And it was very nice because many of them did not know they were entrepreneurs. Like we had ladies that were like 70 years old and they were selling like car pieces, and they did not know that they didn't have anything digital. So we had to teach them how to keep inventory digital, but also how they position themselves now into circular economy or actually upcycling. So it was very interesting to kind of bring a new lens to what they have been doing for 50 years. And what I think was very needed for us was really to focus on this group, because these senior people that were unemployed and are like between 50 and 60, they were too young to retire, but also they were too old to get back doing what they were doing before, and they were digitally excluded. So I think it's really a group that we need to do more, and the COP was really useful to learn and to get that knowledge that you have with the specialists, you have with the directly talking with the beneficiaries, that it's not for granted and it's not something that every program has.
Thank you, Francesco. Now from seniors, we're moving to youth, the youth COP.
I'm Victoria Söregi from Impact Hub Budapest, and I was leading pilot COP youth. And in Impact Hub Budapest, we are working a lot with youth, but in this time it was much more challenging because we were working with youth who were growing up in foster care. And at the aha moment, it's that we had a mentor call, and in the debriefing, and the mentor said that they have learned so much about what does it mean growing up in foster care. So they didn't even know how can people, how can these youth handle their life, and what are their perspective and possibilities in the future. And this is one aha moment. So the mentors were even more grateful than the participants, because they could have an insight into their life. And the other aha moment that we were asking one of our participants that how would you describe this process or this journey for yourself? And he said, okay, I was an unpolished diamond, and now I'm ready to shine. So it was very nice.
Thank you. I guess you can feel the emotion, so yeah. Thank you. Christian.
I have no emotion to share because I have no pilot. But I'm Cristian Mancinone. I work in ARTA, which is the Regional Development Agency in Emilia-Romagna, and I'm the chair of the Social Impact Special Interest Group in EDN. And my three key takeaways are the first one, that we coordinate a regional incubation system of more than 30 incubators, and we need to run to be inclusive, really to run, because there is so much to do, and I learned so much in these communities of practice, in this in the training system that the project has made, and we need to involve them in more things at regional level, at local level, to make them meet all those needs. It's really necessary. The second key takeaway is that we are really a wonderful community, because we always share information, we always share opportunities, we always share even impact stories, and that it's really important for people like us that are not managing directly things or programs, but we are like a meso-level structure, and we can transform this in policies at regional level, and it's really important to be engaged with you in understanding what is needed. And the third key takeaway is a personal takeaway, that I really thank you all, because you are so wonderful in describing what you're doing with passion. So this passion.
Emotion.
This is important.
Thank you, Christian. Naila?
I'm Naila. I lead the global programs for the Impact Hub Network, and I had the pleasure during this project to be the facilitator of the Community of Practice for Youth. So hosting this wonderful community of Impact Hub members, EVM members, experts, entrepreneurs throughout a journey of 1 year. So two key takeaways for me. The first one around this network of networks and how we collaborated wonderfully. And that's what Hisha was saying, the journey. So it was a journey of learning for the three networks around how to curate a learning journey with a community of diverse voices online in a pandemic for a target group that for some networks was very familiar, for some was youth, and different levels of learning and expectations. And I think we did wonderful, and it was really emotional to see Victoria, for example, sharing with the Zislava from EVN, and everybody doing their own like best practices comparison and how do we do this. And then all meeting together, we've had the opportunity to bring entrepreneurs from the foster care system into our calls with interpretation and like try to understand what they were going through, which was fantastic, different contexts. And the second one was around, I guess, the best practices, right? I think when we entered this project 2 years ago, I thought we were gonna come up with these new recipes and new ways of doing things. And there was an aha moment in our group when we all realized, so they all described the way they were using a particular tool, which is a normal tool, and each one of the 4 VSOs use it differently. And they were explaining their delivery journey and why they couldn't do cohort-based, why this couldn't do, and it was like, okay, so then maybe this is a learning. It's all about like delivery systems and like these nuances, these small adaptations. And I think that was an aha moment for me.
Thank you, Naila. Gerrit?
Yeah, Gerrit Overtveen. I'm the managing director at World Startup. To be honest, I haven't been that much involved in this entire program, so that is perhaps my aha moment. Wow, there's so much out there, and I'm looking forward to deep dive in all this. I'm the mentor of Andre. And there's always ventures first at World Startup, so he's actually the one that this is all about. And we've had having some wonderful conversations about how we could enter the market in the Netherlands, what are the specific needs in the Dutch market, etc. So apart from the first takeaway, my aha moment about this huge program, the other one is that hey, apparently you can do programs together with EVPA, and as a member I can start exploring these opportunities. So I'm looking very much forward to do that with EVPA as one of the members. And the third one is actually Well, although it's very good, we're also, a couple of people reached out to me a couple of months ago from Romania and also from Denmark. And so we talk a lot with incubators and accelerators across the continent and also across the world. And they say, well, we need a retreat because we're a bit exhausted. We had a very heavy period behind us in the COVID period, pandemic. And we've been pushing it, our agenda and this social entrepreneurship and this impact entrepreneurship, and we are very passionate, what you're also describing, but we're struggling with a very low budget, very high expectations, especially from the entrepreneurs that are reaching out to us. And we can't really deal with it, especially the incubators outside of capitals and not related to universities. And they are having a hard time. And then whenever you go for funding, you need to do something extra. So you need to learn something new. You need to come up with something creative, something innovative, something next level. But your core is under pressure. And I think that's something that is my aha now again. Like, oh yeah, sure. Yeah, you can do so many new things. But many managers of innovation hubs, of incubators, of accelerators, outside of the capital and outside of universities, they are struggling. And I think we shouldn't push them that hard. Yeah.
So from this very short panel, we really wanted you to take the human side of things, because we talk a lot of network of networks and systemic change, and that sometimes can seem too much, but behind any network and any change, there are people, and people have emotions, and when something changes inside of you, that change you can take in any organization, in this one, in the next one, and you can take the change further. So we are, first of all, humans.
Yes.
Yes.
That's sure.
So then thank you, and please feel free to reach out to us, to them, to.
Thank you very much. That was really, really inspiring to hear the voice from the people. Let's continue with the voice now, but the voice from the entrepreneurs that won the Better Incubation contest. So, can I ask Fela, Ezra, Gulash, and Andrei to join me, please, here. Big applause for. So this morning we had your fantastic pitch. The three of you did really, really great on main stage. So congratulations. I'm always shocked when I see young entrepreneurs facing an audience, and above all in this case, an audience somehow investors. So even I don't imagine here the pressure that you have. So what I really so this morning we heard about your idea. That for those of you who didn't manage, no worries. I'll just tell you in a phrase what that is. So then maybe you will have the curiosity to go and talk to them. But also what we want to hear is also to understand a little bit your experience now, from the support that you are receiving by this sort of a small consortium. Again, each one member per each of the networks is somehow supporting you to grow in your next phase. So, can I start with you, maybe Ezra and Gular, from NeedsMap, in a nutshell, and I hope I won't say anything wrong when you try to translate very technical things. So, is a map-based technology, right? They try to put together the needs from one side, from individuals, educational institutions, and non-governmental organization, and somehow try to match with the support that is available, try to see, to validate whether this support is the right one or not. Is that it? Right, more or less? Yeah, confirm. Great. So at the moment you're receiving the support from EUBIC Città della Scienza, Impact Hub, King's Cross, and Impact Shaker in Belgium. So if you can tell us in a nutshell, how are they helping your company to scale? What are you finding most useful in the exchange with them?
Okay, let me take this. Actually, we have just founded NeedsMap Brussels here in Brussels. So
Right.
we had a launch event. So we were here, Pilar and me. We are the co-founders in Brussels, and one of the coordinators were in Italy, Naples, for better incubation, and he couldn't stop telling about it, about the experience. And especially now, while going global, NeedsMap UK and NeedsMap Italy is loading. It was a great experience and support from Better Incubation because we had the chance to have online mentorship from UK and Italy as well before starting how to scale NeedsMap in UK and Italy. It was really good to know. I mean, we are having our, study visits to those countries, of course, ourselves, but to meet people from the sector, public institutions, I mean, private companies, NGOs, and social initiatives who are already working there on social impact, and to learn about the market, to learn about the impact drivers in those countries were really, priceless. Because the exchanging know-how and making plans how to use our technology, how to adopt our social impact, drivers into those countries was really valuable.
So great.
Maybe just to add one global point of the incubation program that supported us. We have target countries that we are going to establish, but as NeedsMap, we also want to become a global movement. And for entrepreneurs, especially social entrepreneurs, ecosystems are key for success. Like our success within Turkey depends on our network and being part of a bigger ecosystem and being supported by that. And through this better incubation, now we feel like we are part of this global international ecosystem as well. And this really gives us hope for our future success. And that was really key in the program.
Yeah, and the best thing we do, we are told that we are really good at building communities. So this is a very, useful community to be a part of. Yeah.
Great, good. Thank you very much. Fela, you are the founder of Salvata. Your innovation is about modular shoes that you produce from plastic waste, which I think is probably one of the main messages here, but also that can be personalized, right, in terms of styles and patterns. You show, by the way, I think you have with you one of those shoes, so afterwards go and see them. They looked amazing. So in this phase of your scaling project, you're supported by UBIC Wakano in France, Impact Hub Stockholm, and Envio in the Netherlands. Again, also for you, what are the elements of how these three organizations, are somehow focusing for your business growth, and also if you can tell us a little bit how they were decided. I mean, where were you in the process of deciding the plan?
All right, thank you so much. I'm really glad that I'm here. And so earlier this year, we tried to get into an accelerator in Europe, but then they wanted to. So we had been approached 5 times this year by some investors, where we almost concluded the deals, but we had to reject those deals. And not just within Europe, but also particularly in Africa. So for us, it was really about people that are mission-driven, they can buy into our dream. We have a very global vision, and we need people as such they can help drive that. And so, so that accelerator, we had to let go of it because we're not sure of the conditions. And so we feel like for us, we would still go on, even if it means using our own personal funds. And so, and it's not a must response. So we believe we can keep building community. However, I would say that on landing to France last year, through the French Tech Talent Passport, we came into an incubator. Unfortunately, it was supposed to be a soft landing program, but it was more like on our own. They tried what they could, but I was in Slovenia having a communication about the challenges entrepreneurs face during all this kind of program. So they didn't have enough capacity to do that. So going back to your question, I would say that the incubator in Paris, Wakano, was really helpful in helping to soft land. So for us, it's really about finding means to penetrate the market where we're trying to scale in. And this particular incubator, Wakano, was really helpful in terms of community engagements and product testings. For me, it was the best form of soft landing for me and beyond the initial part. And also the advice from MVU was really helpful. The person from MVU literally had the time to sit with me and he kept waiting. Okay, I felt like we're supposed to end this, but it just felt like he had all the time in the world. And I felt like, okay, this is the kind of people we need. We need people that are willing to help us grow. And through better incubation, we're able to receive those kinds of support. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And I can say that yesterday I was in Paris actually visiting UB Wakano, and the exchange with FELA is actually helping them to integrate pieces in their internationalization services and soft landing services that they were not thinking about. So you see, this somehow cross-fertilization, let's say, between the exchange with entrepreneurs is really helpful also from the business support organization side. Last but not least, Andre, you're CEO and co-founder of Arbo Technologies. Again, is an app, right? It's an app that map in details the needs of the trees outside the forest, which I find amazing. Whether they are safely, whether they are safe, or if they can pose a problem to the surroundings, and so in advance somehow go and avoid that this happens, or that on the contrary, very safe trees somehow are killed. You're supported now by UBIC startup Wageningen, Impact Hub Brno, and War Startup in the Netherlands again. And same question for you. What are the main elements for the future expansion of your venture? What are you working on with these three organizations?
So for me, the most interesting aspect was that how tailor-made it was for us, because when you trying to bring something new, you don't have like a game plan in advance. You just start in your country, then trying to go to these other markets. In some, most of them, it doesn't work out. In some, you get some traction, and it's very hard to get this right in advance. So for me, it was a very interesting experience that I could choose where I want to focus, because in cooperation with other accelerators, you have to go like to their city, to their markets. They are trying to be like international and help you where you need to. But here in this case, we just get the first customer, quite a big one in Netherlands. And I had an experience to spend some time on the market, get a coach on the market who knows it very well, and really to help us to get feeling of it and to validate if it's the right place for us, where to start our international expansion. So this really worked out well for us in this regard.
This is priceless. One last question for all of you. I'm sorry, I need for you to be short. There are part of the people here in the room. There is as well a community that is following us online. If there is one message that you want to give, to any social entrepreneurs or any potential entrepreneurs that somehow wants to put forward an impact-driven company, what your message would be, starting from you?
Recently, I have given a similar answer in our event as well. I guess the most important thing is showing that you care and showing that we care and we dare to take action. Because supporting, disadvantaged people or institutions or anyone who needs help in this world, you're not only supporting the needs, but also supporting the motivation and hope of people, showing them that they're not alone in this world. So I think every effort in this world has a value and means a lot. And as a social entrepreneur, it's about not giving up of your dreams. It's following the dreams no matter what.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. First, I must say that the entrepreneur, one, needs to believe in his parcel. First, I think that's paramount. And also, you need to develop skill sets that is necessary to drive you alone. So when other team fails, when the team fails, when the funding fails, first, you need to believe in yourself. Then your skill sets will help you drive it further. So the reason I say this is I've tried to also work on other technical products and other products, and most of them actually failed. And I worked as an environmental scientist, and I also have some background as a business analyst. And these are the things that have been pushing me to date, even when other things failed. And the reason most of these things failed were because I did not have a lot of technical background or some background in some other things that didn't work, and these teams actually most times dissolve. And so for me, it's really about working on yourself, believing in what you're doing, and I believe that is enough motivation to keep driving. And again, I would say that innovation is key to really your global growth. And innovation doesn't have to be boring, doesn't have to be ugly, and it doesn't have to be small. And so this is why I believe in, and I always say that for the impact to be significant, so must it scale. And so if you're doing good and you're not doing it big, then this impact will not be significant. So I'm going to end it.
Thank you very much.
Maybe like the key point that gave me so much strength on my social entrepreneurship journey is like working collectively. Although success might seem individual thing, but I believe impact is a collective thing. And in order to make an impact, social entrepreneurs should be working together collectively. And the team that you are working together, the team and people who you work with is key in the success. And also the organizations that you are together is really important. So I think through collective work and through groups of people, we can do system change. And that's one of the key skills for social entrepreneurs, I believe.
Thank you.
Yeah, I must say I'm really happy to see like impact investing not being just some kind of trend, but to becoming a new norm, like we do not investing, but business as a whole. So for me, yeah, the only advice I would say is try it, and if you get some traction, and never let go.
Great. Thank you very much. So you heard them care, believe, dare, learn, and also amplify the impacts without giving up. So thank you very much. That was really inspiring. Congratulations again for everything that you've done so far, and good luck for your bright future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chiara, can you give the final word together with Lucia and Valeria?
Yes. So last three voices of this session are the ones of, let's say, project managers for the three networks. So there's what are our main takeaways in one word as for the others. Well,
For me, one word would be knowledge, because one big thing of better innovation was, first of all, gathering knowledge. Second of all was creating knowledge, and right now we are disseminating knowledge. As Chiara was saying, we invite you on Better Incubation. There is a lot of content gathered, created, curated, and for you to use it and then to integrate. So knowledge.
Vale?
For me, the world would be like perspective. So from our network, what I can tell is that we open and we change the perspective. I mean, we can see from the lens of the investor for impact, but also from the side of the BSO. So this was a good takeaway from us.
Okay, and my word is network. Yeah, because as I told you at the beginning, we achieved what we achieved because we put together different voices. You heard them today, different perspectives, different knowledge, and this allowed us to do, not to take one step, but I would say to take 100 steps in understanding how we can do more and better in incubation. So we did all these three networks and the other stakeholders you heard from, imagine what could we do if other networks would join, other perspectives. And so that's the invitation, get in touch, join this network of networks, because together we can do even better incubation. So thank you all.
Just one question was, how did you manage time management in terms of, with the existing business as usual? Collaboration on top? So just in terms of, because collaboration does take time, to invest that time in building the relationships, setting an agenda, follow up, all of that. And so having spare capacity in the organization facilitates that. But often in the ecosystem, certainly on the non-funder side, capacity is, people are generally stretched beyond capacity. And so I think often people would love to collaborate, but a blocker is being beyond capacity or at capacity. And so just interesting to hear how that dynamic worked.
So I will tell you that indeed, Brigitte said it's a 3 years project. Officially, it's a 2 years project, but we took quite a lot of time to write it, because we really went back to our communities to understand the needs. So having read the call, we really tailored the proposal, and so what you see now, based on the needs of our organizations, of our communities. So I think that was key, paramount, in order to have people engaged and dedicating time. The dropout ratio in the COPs was very low. I think only one organization, not even left, but couldn't commit fully. And so we engage even more people on that community of practice, but they all stayed despite it was online. And of course, we enabled dynamics that kept people engaged and involved. It was taken by everybody, secretariats and members, as an opportunity to improve capacities. So maybe, yes, they invested also a bit more than what originally thought. But I think the return of this investment was worth for most of us. And that's why, I mean, I found it very interesting. It's more than a project, because it really goes, it's matching the needs of the communities we have been working with. And so that's why we have committed people and organizations. That's I think the rest.
Yeah, but I can add that we also were very careful about internal procedures. So when we had changes in the people working in the project, we made sure that the handover was always done properly. In the same time, bringing our expertise, we could offer flexibility to the all stakeholders that were involved. So we basically could meet them where they were. So if they could not join, for example, one community of practice call, we could follow up individually. So being available and flexible, we could keep them engaged throughout the process.
Yes. I'm curious what's going to be the next steps. Can you carry on doing this when there's no funding? Or will there be funding to carry on doing? We would love to have other fundings. We are looking into additional fundings. I mean, more resources, of course. This is something that help and ease the work. But yes, we are going to keep working on this. You heard the 3 networks before, telling how each organization is going to move forward with the results. But on the other side, indeed, I think all the networks mentioned how powerful was this collaboration. So in a way or another, this partnership is going to keep working and continue, probably with a lower intensity. This was very intense. These 2 years, were very, very intense, and for these you need additional resources. But let's say definitely it's not the 31st of December. It's door closes.
Yeah, for sure, and many BSOs are continuing to work with the underrepresented groups in their own communities. So although we might not, 1st of January 2023, continue this partnership officially, it continues through our business partner organizations.
And through the materials. I mean, the codified materials that we have in the website, the toolkits, the full 2 series of trainings that are now edited and nice videos, self-paced courses. I don't know, there is a lot of materials that are easy to implement and that we will continue to spread across. But I think we're very hopeful for the continuation of this network of networks and the peer-to-peer support.
One question with a comment. I'm speaking as a funder, but I'm not saying I have any money. But I'm saying, logically, like, you know, it was such a great project. Like, it was such great energy in this. Not being very selfish, talking about refugees and migrants, which is my work, but it's the most familiar with. I think there's a lot here that we can take out to, you know, the singers and the turns and the big names who are doing this in a very different way, and then try and marry these approaches with the kind of work they're doing, but also try and enter, you know, through a sort of bunch of prototypes, more specific BSOs in certain geographies, and really go, you know, do this with a larger cohort of people, and see where we get. Because I think all these learnings, the toolkits, all our observations are only as good as the sort of end result, right? And I think I love these kinds of projects, but I do think that after a while, like, we need to be thinking 5, 10, 15-year horizons, right? And going out there and really waiting for the impact. And I'm wondering if there's a way we can, you know, plan this and then try and look to raise impact funds to do this kind of long-term horizon project. You know, this is the right community to begin this discussion, right?
Yeah. One of the ideas we were discussing these days, we were sitting together in Brussels, was, for example, to facilitate connections among members of these 3 communities, for example, to go for interreg programs, so finding other funding streams to keep working, using you know, the knowledge acquired in this specific project, and see how it can be used in other regions of Europe, of the world. You know, we are all international networks, so these are all the things we are considering. Yeah.
Are you measuring the health of the network at all in terms of, I suppose, communication, governance, decision-making, issues like this at all?
if we are measuring it.
Measuring it, yeah, surveying members.
Yes,
Not necessarily recipients, but people who are,
Involved.
yeah.
Yes. We are in this dialogic mode with, for example, of course, final beneficiaries, but also participants of the COPs, of the trainings to understand, again, to get feedback and see how we could improve things. We are actually entering the final reporting phase where we are going to put together all these figures and also qualitative information to see the final, let's say, the impact, to assess the impact of these 2 years of work. Yeah. Yes, I would say last 2 questions. So I see them here. Yeah.
One question or suggestion on funding. I've seen one of the networks, the way they work is they take 1% equity in the company they support, and it is on a voluntary basis. But most companies, if you find you're adding value beyond 1% of the company, they're willing to give the 1% equity. Now, in your cohort, if you had taken a 1% equity in all these companies, how much of your funding would have come from that equity?
Good question. Good question. I said.
Yeah, they put it in the pool, and then the pool keeps growing. So then it becomes self-sustaining from its needs. So
But only if they have clear exit.
But
Only if you have an exit.
Yes,
those
so it
companies.
stays in the pool, and therefore at some point something or the other keeps coming out. And over a period of time, then it becomes self-sustaining. So for example, if a company has even a market value of just $1 million per company, now $10,000 is what you get as a fees out of them. And therefore that's a decent enough money. So if you have 10 companies, you have like 100,000 for your expenses. So the logic should work. And I don't think
We'll investigate then.
maybe it's a sustainable.
We'll think about it. Explore. Thank you for the suggestion. Yeah. So last question there.
I think most of the question here is like, it's going toward one thing. We want like these beautiful programs to last, like sustainability. I love it, but I don't think it's gonna work with this method, especially like, impact. So what you can do, guys, like not renting, like these videos, how to build an incubator, like the one you mentioned, and you can make money out of it. You guys have experience now. So be like other country, I mean, like they can like learn from you by like funding these, whatever you do.
I agree.
Fact. You know what I mean? Does it make sense?
I agree. I think this is what is happening in the European scheme constantly. That we're creating this huge network, great body of knowledge, funding stops, and then it tears down because we don't think about long-term business model in the knowledge and network platforms themselves. Because the underlying organizations already have their own business model. So we forget building platforms. And I think that's one of the things that we should work on. And there should be business model. I think we already said that also in another session today. We should start working on platform business models, apart from BSO business models and startup business models.
Yes, even if I'm in project since long time, and here there is really we have developed a program that it's really serving the communities of these networks. So we have built products, methodologies that were tested in this framework and that we are going to put forward. Then, of course, the thing is that, of course, if we could find additional resources, this would allow us to test even more things and improve further. But this is what we are working on.
You should have a session for yourself.
Yeah.
So, and
it seems we can expand our advisory board.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, what I wanted to add is that this would be a different business model. So we are not gonna charge for video viewing right now. But while this is a different business model, the fact that we were funded by a European fund, the fact that the funding ends does not kill the project, because what we build based on the needs and based on what we want to further develop. So like diversity, equity and inclusion is a part of the strategy of Impact Hub Network. So all the materials that we develop, we are gonna build on them further. So it's I know what you mean, because I've been working in European funded projects for a long time. And yes, sometimes they are one shots, and this is why I know what the Commission wants to stop. The idea of one shot project. But this was a strategic one. So when you have a vision, it does not die, although you will not make money exactly for that product.
But anyways, enter to the website today because it might be charged tomorrow.
Okay, so
Thank you, everybody.
thank you very much. And